Well, I believe I have been watching this movie for far too long without reading the original source material, so I did. Howl's Moving Castle, the novel, was published in 1986 and in some ways is a lot more sharp in its storytelling than the movie. By sharp, I mean the characters are definitely less noble than the movie, and the plot will be constantly taking you to stranger and stranger places. There will be spoilers for both the book and the movie, so if you want to avoid those, then stop watching, and if you have time, read the book and watch the movie. The novel brilliantly tells the story through words. Diana Jones did a great job of creating the story and having it unfold as the story goes on. But if you thought the movie was confusing at times, this book may leave you twice as confused. There are a lot of story threads and even stranger magic than the movie. For example, the Scarecrow is searching for his missing skull, which ended up in Howl's castle. The Witch of the Waste Fire Companion is a school teacher, and Howl is from Wales. Really, he is from our dimension, and somehow through the doors can live in Sophie's dimension in the kingdom of Ingary. Speaking of which, that seems to be Diana Jones' way of flipping the usual fairy tale format on its head. Sophie is the main character we see the world from. Sophie is the eldest of three daughters, but as the narrator says, all three daughters grew up to be pretty. Sophie's stepmom isn't particularly cruel or mean either, and the magical wizard comes from a suburb in Wales. The characters themselves are also pretty flawed, and this is not a criticism. Characters without flaws are characters that are not relatable. Hal is pretty cowardly and has to trick himself to fight stronger opponents to save himself and others. Sophie gives into her anger a lot and doesn't always think things through all the way. The larger goal of this novel is to get away from the Witch of the Waste. There is no war going on. The catalyst of the story is the witch, who's a lot more evil in the novel, even killing Hal's teacher, who is unable to leave her wheelchair. She is also hundreds of years old. Once she dies and the magic goes away, she crumples into a pile of bones. At the end, all the spells are broken, and Wizard Solomon and Prince Justin return to their normal selves. Sophie gets her spell broken too, and I think that is now time to talk about how the movie handled things. Well, during the novel, the kingdom of Ingary was not currently in a war. The king mentions the war seems to be on the horizon. Perhaps this is where Miyazaki got the idea to incorporate a war into the story. He did an incredible job at it. While the festivals Sophie walks through at the beginning of the book are in the movie, it's changed to a military celebration of Ingary showing off to its citizens the true might of their army. Prince Justin is no longer the king's brother, but a prince of the neighboring kingdom, and Heen is just Heen. Hal's teacher is pretty much the same, a very old wheelchair-bound woman who Hal was the last student of, except in the movie she is the head sorcerer of Ingary and takes the mantle as main antagonist. I prefer the Witch of the Waste in the movie, one for being a lot more nice and also for not taking the main antagonist role. She seems to only be in her 80s. Once the magic is taken away, she is still alive. I enjoy how Miyazaki tells a story through visuals. If the novel is the perfect way to tell the story through words, the movie is the perfect way to tell the story through visuals. We don't need to be told that something is off about the Witch of the Waste. Her appearance tells us that. She has been trying to keep herself looking young with magic, and the result hasn't made her look the best. Once the magic is taken away, she honestly looks healthier and more approachable. Hayao Miyazaki also used visuals to show Sophie's character growth, showing her getting progressively younger when she acts younger, only becoming an elderly lady when she acts old. Hal's heartlessness is shown through him turning into a monster. Through a visual medium, I think this is the best way to present messages, because unlike the book, it can't be told to you, it has to be shown. I find Hayao Miyazaki and Diana Wynne Jones to have very similar fashions in storytelling. Both the book and the movie take a more soft world-building approach, presenting you with the elements as is without explaining the full history of Ingary. It's one of the reasons why I believe the author loved the movie adaptation so well. She said Miyazaki understood her books in a way no one else ever had. Miyazaki had quite the challenge to develop this story into a movie. With a book you could do a lot more meandering and incorporate more plot threads. A movie tends to need to move things faster along. Hayao Miyazaki tweaked some things by giving the Witch of the Waste a much simpler reason to arrive at Sophie's hat shop to make her old. Some things like the dog man are tossed out and the scarecrow is simplified a bit, and any side plots of the sisters are all but forgotten. But that is alright, the movie is different, a lot different. Both start out about the same way and have similar endings, but the rest is a lot different. The movie is still a solid story in every way and doesn't feel like it's lacking anything because it doesn't share all the same elements as the book. Diana Jones' book was her making a story to flip the way we usually see a story, by making the main character a girl, an elderly girl, showing life to be incredibly chaotic and sometimes confusing. Hayao Miyazaki's movie shows his immense frustration at war, as he shows it in its worst light, something that is not at all honorable and not worth any attention. The characters are constantly trying to escape the war, but it follows them all the way to Sophie's hometown. This isn't to say the movie doesn't explore the same themes as the book. It does, such as Sophie's age and learning to be young. It's just the book and movie take different routes, but both tell an amazing story, both representative of the times they were made and of the authors themselves. The movie's visuals and the author's excellent writing make the experience of both absolutely magical. I thought the Seven League Boots were just so fun and interesting, and the falling star scene in the movie is a wonder of animation, and I am glad that Hayao Miyazaki directed Howl's Moving Castle. I just can't imagine anyone else being able to do that.